Welcome, this is Black Lotus, your YouTube script kitty, and this is how to web scrape the tags from an HTML page and get the attributes and the information within those attributes, and then save those to either a JSON or a shell database in Python. So for this, I've created a Jupyter notebook and a folder called Pokemon Docs, and the web page I'm trying to web scrape is PokemonDB.net. What I'm trying to do is gather the tags or the attributes within tags that have the information for the dex number and of the Pokemon name. Now, obviously, this is an example web scrape, and it's going to be tailor-made for that. But you can use the template that I show you in order to format it for your own web scraping and to get the information you need from the web pages you are actually scraping. Now, the version of Python I'm using is 3.9.1, and to help me with this scraper, I've already set up a couple of cells. I've set up my URL and my request object, and I am going to pull the HTML page down. And I've already taken a look at the HTML bit, but just for reference, I'll go ahead and pretty print this. And this is what the HTML looks like, and the tags I found that were most helpful were the A tags with the title view Pokedex, or the title attribute and starts with view Pokedex, and the span tag that has data alt with the actual Pokemon name in it. So those are the tags that I'm going to scrape and the information within them. To do that, I'm going to use all of these modules. All of these are within the Python library. You don't have to import anything for them. So go ahead and use these for yourself if you wish. I'm going to create a class for myself to start extracting the information, and I'm going to inherit from the built-in HTML parser. For this one, I'll call this one Pokemon Parse, and I will inherit from HTMLParser. And the HTML parser has a few things. It has a init that I want to take a couple things for myself into my own scraper, and it also has handle start tag, which is the main method I'm going to be using. So for this class, I'll go ahead and define my init, and I'll pass it self, and I'll call the HTML init itself. So for that, I will say super.init, and I will begin defining my handle start tag. And handle start tag takes 3 arguments. It takes self, it takes tag, and it takes adders. Tag is a string and adders is a list. And I want to specify for each tag, I want to check if it's the A tag or the span tag. And then I want to specifically extract the title from the A tag and the data alt from the span tag. Now, because there are multiple A tags that have title attributes, I'm going to specify that I want the title information to have view Pokedex so that I know I'm taking out the right information. So I'll say if tag is equal to span, or A, for this one it'll be A, and then I want to say for name and information for that tag in attributes, if the name is equal to title and info starts with view Pokedex, I'll just copy and paste that. Then I want to append that to a list. So in my init, I'll go back to my init and I'll say self.first tag is equal to an empty list. And then I'll say self.first tag dot append. And I want a dictionary for the name and info. And I want to do the same thing for the span tag. So if tag is equal to span, for name, info, and adders, if name is equal to data alt, then I want to put that in another list of its own. So I'll say self.second tag equal to an empty list. self dot second tag dot append, and again I want a dictionary with the name and info. Okay. Again, this is tailor-made for this specific website. Go ahead and change it as you see fit for the correct tags or the correct attributes that you wish. Now for this particular scraper, I want to be able to iterate through it and eventually convert stuff to one cohesive dictionary. So to do that, I need a dunder iter. I'll pass it self. And to help with my iteration, I'm also going to use the built-in counter, or the count from iter tools, in order to keep track of each individual Pokemon, even incrementing it if it still has the same dex number. So you'll see that when it's actually printed out, what I mean by that. But for the now, we'll go ahead and say counter is equal to count. And then I'll go ahead and loop over the first tag and second tag at the same time. To do that, I'll set up my for loop and say for f tag or first tag and second tag in zip self dot first tag and self dot second tag, I want to yield another step in our counter, and I want to get the first tag object combined with the second tag object. Okay. And finally, I want to be able to save these to either a JSON or a shelf object as I see fit. And to do that, I want to specify a current path if I want to shift it to a different path, and save it to that while coming back to the current directory. So in order to do that, I will need a context manager, and we're going to import that from context lib. And I'll define a file path, and I will give it a path as my parameter. And next thing I'm going to do is I want to try and define my current path. So for this, I'll use os.getCDW or CWD. I want to change the directory. And then I want to hold it there until my file is saved. And then once it's been saved, I want to finally return back to the current working directory. Because I want to use that as a context manager, I'll go ahead and give it the decorator as well. Okay, that went through. Now for my to.json, I want to specify the direct path, and I want to specify a file name at the same time. So I'll give it those arguments. File name. And I'll specify the information I want to save in the JSON. So since I specified a dunder iter, I can now call dictionary class itself on self. And I'll say with file, which is my custom-made context manager. I'll give it the path, and we'll say with open file name, and I want to open it in write mode as JSON file, and then I want to dump that information. Okay, and now I want to do the same thing for my shelf database. I want to specify my information. I want to use my custom context manager to navigate to a correct path. And then I want to open the shelf module and save a database, and I want to store within that database a specific key value. So within my toShelf, I'll give it the path, I'll give it my database name and a key name. I'll open the database name, and I'll open that in create mode, and I'll call that DB, and I'll say DB, and then I'll say key name is equal to my information. I have a syntax error in line 15, so that would be title and information dot starts with. Here we go. Okay, now what I can do is I can create a object for my Pokemon parse. We'll just call this Pokemon parser, and we'll set that equal to the class. So we'll create an instance. I want to feed my parser the page that I web scraped earlier. Now that is in byte strings. As you can see, when I pretty print it, it's all in byte strings, and it's one big byte string as itself. So I'll feed it after converting it to a regular string. I went through fine. Now that I've fed my parser the information, I can actually take a look at it. And because I just specified the dunder iter again, I can call dictionary directly on it. And as we see, it goes in, my counter goes in order, and the dex number is correct for each one. So for regular Charizard, it's dex number 6. Item number, object number 6 in my dictionary. Object number 7 is still Pokedex number 6, but for a Mega Charizard, and then the other Mega Charizard is also dex number 6, but my 8th object in my dictionary. So I want to save this as a JSON file. So I'll call Pokemon parser.toJSON. For my JSON object, I need to give it a path. So my path is going to be Pokemon docs. And my file name will be Pokemon db.json. And information, I need to change this up here to information, not importation. Information. And let's run these again. Okay, now let's check it. Okay, there we go. We now have Pokemon db.json. It looks like it's all there. Looks correct. And I accidentally specified the name wrong here, so I had a typo. So we'll say .json. And that's more like it. In Jupyter Notebooks, a JSON object should show up in red. We'll delete the typoed one. And now we'll go ahead and save that object as a shelf database. So we'll say toShelf. I'll give it the path. I need to give it a database name. So for this one, I'll just use Pokemon in capital letters. No need to add the extension .db. It'll do that automatically in Macs, and then in Windows and Linux, it'll be separated into 3 files: a .dat, a .dir, and a .bak for backup, directory, and database, respectively, or however I said that, in whatever order I said that. So just Pokemon, and then we'll give it a key value name. So we'll just call the key value, the key item, Pokemon with a lowercase. See here, no such directly Pokemon docs. Let's see. Oh, I need to give it a backslash. Looks like that went through. And of course, like I said earlier, in Macs, the shelf database will show up as a .db file. In Linux and Microsoft Windows, it'll show up as 3 separate folders: .bak, .dat, and .dir. On a Mac, so it's .db. And now we can check that database. So we'll say with shelf.open, we'll say Pokemon docs. Again, it's important not to put a .db at the end of your database name. You want to erase that, or else it will not show up. You'll get it. Python will throw an error. We'll open that, and we'll reopen that in read mode, and we'll call this one database. I'll just use database, not to confuse it with DB within my class. And then we'll say data is equal to database, and we'll give it the key Pokemon that we specified when we saved it. And we'll take a look at the data, and it should be the exact same as when I call the dictionary directly on it, and it is. Okay, so that is how to web scrape tags from an HTML page. If you are web scraping, in my case, I had to custom make the handle start tags for 2 specific start tags. You can always add more. You can remove some. You can even write handle start tag without hard coding the specific tags and attributes if you'd like, or starts with. And you really use this to customize a web scraper without having to import third-party modules. Not that those third-party modules aren't good, they're excellent, but I think this really gives it a nice succinct way to parse HTML for small projects, and doesn't really need the overkill of those much larger, much more powerful Python packages. So just one more review. I pulled down my web page. I created a context manager for saving. I created my own custom class based on inheriting from the HTML parser from Python itself. And then I was able to save that into multiple different formats. In this particular case, I used Json and the non-relational database that comes with Python called Shelf. Thank you for watching. I hope you got something out of it. If you did, please hit the like button, and maybe I'll see you next time.